Okay, so that's one direction of tools that we look at. Another is stylometry. And stylometry is investigation of linguistic qualities, style, which identify who an author is. And this is work that's generally done on static text, so finished, complete products, usually books. It was famously used to identify authors of the Federalist Papers and of Primary Colors, and infamously used to incorrectly attribute work to Shakespeare, right? So it's not perfect. We're all very comfortable with that. Don Foster is less comfortable with that, but it's okay. His career is fine. Was better. Anyway, and essentially the idea is we're going to try to say what words you use, what kind of syntactic structures do you use, what are your linguistic tics that make you sound like you when you type, okay? And similar techniques have used throughout natural language processing and related to our work on demographics, they've been used in things like personal attribute recognition, recognizing things like do male and female writers write differently, which is a mildly, to put it mildly, controversial idea. Does age impact our language use? Yes, it does. Does political orientation? To a lesser extent, yes, et cetera. Okay, so how do we measure style when we talk about text? And this is an incomplete list. People are very creative in their techniques to do this. But there are things like just statistics of word use, right? Do I write the word of a lot? Do I write the word Andrew a lot? Do I write you know a lot? I don't, but one thing that I do when writing academic papers is I'll use the phrase in order to way too often when to will suffice. So I'll say like, in order to discover this, rather than to discover this. And that's one of, I'm sure, myriad things that I don't know about my own writing. But statistics like that are indicative of who we are. There are kind of linguistic tics. You can then move into a little bit of syntax and say, oh, does this person use a lot of adverbs? Do they use a bunch of modal verbs? How do they use different punctuation? Do they capitalize a lot? Do they really like em dashes? Some people do. Some people will never use an em dash. Lexical diversity, right? Is this person a relatively sophisticated writer, varying the kinds of words they use a lot, or are they very repetitive and very clear, right? And this is another signal that people use. They've used lexical diversity and lexical density and also like readability measures. So like how difficult is this in assessing kind of grade level appropriateness. And things like sentence length. So these are relatively easy to extract from fixed text. The more text you have, the more reliable they are an indicator of who someone is. And the work we're doing doesn't use a whole lot of text, so they're useful, but it's not really quite enough.